today I guess I'm going to be working through some LeetCode problems, just to kind of give a demonstration of the kind of thought process that you can go through to solve problems like the ones that are set on LeetCode. So they're kind of made up, well, they are made up, but the skills that you use to solve these kind of problems are transferable to kind of real world examples. So so let's just get into it. So this is the problem. I've just picked this palindrome number problem. It's easy, so it's a good starting point. So the problem is, given an integer x, return true if x is a palindrome number. So if you're not familiar with palindromes, a palindrome is something that reads the same backwards as it does forwards. So here you can see that the number 121 is a palindrome. So the negative version of this 121 number, because it has a negative and it doesn't have a negative on the other side, it's not a palindrome. So yeah, and you can see that 10 is obviously not a palindrome either. So I think a logical starting point is this this negative. It's quite, do you know what, I've just changed my mind. I think a good approach is to just treat this as a string and just check the characters. So the way that we could do that is we can just create a variable for the x, I don't know, we'll call it text equals x.toString. And so strings in JavaScript and TypeScript, you have property for the length, so we can use that to check how long it is, because we're going to need that later for looping over the characters. So we can go string length, let's be consistent and go text length equals text dot length. Yeah, so that's fine. I think what I'd rather do actually is do, because we only need to loop over half the number to check whether this is a palindrome. We just want to check this character with this character, and if all of them match when we're looping up to the center, I guess if I get Notepad, if we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so we only need to check the first half of the number against the second half of the number. Oops. So we need to check 1 against this one, we need to check this 2 against this 2, and if all the things match, then we know it's a palindrome. So we only need the length divided by 2, and that's possibly going to be a decimal because if it's an odd number, so we need to sort that out, and we can do that with math.floor to get the to round down essentially. So we'll just keep that called text length, that's fine. And now we can do a loop. And we can just go I equals 0 and do I. So this is where I need to think, because if we had this one, length is 3, divided by 2 is 1.5, round down is 1, so this is indexed as 0. We only need to consider the first one, so that's 0, so therefore less than text length rather than less than or equal to. I suppose it actually, does it matter if it was, yeah, I think that is correct as it is. And we're going to increment the value, So now we need to do our checks. So we have the value as text, and I guess what we can do is, if this character, so this will be, I will be 0, and you can treat this as an array. So if you have 0 in these square brackets, it will get the first character of the text string. So if the first character is equal to the last character, so that will be text dot text dot length -1 will be the last character, but then we also want to minus the value of I to gradually increment back from the edge, from the end. If that equals that character, then return false, because it doesn't match, therefore it's not a palindrome. And if all of that succeeds, we can return true. And I think that's a good solution. It's probably not the most efficient, but I think it's efficient enough. So let's run it and see if it works. Okay, so I've not put a bracket somewhere. Yep, that's just here. Easily done, especially when we're not in the context of a editor. Okay, so I've made a mistake here. That's the wrong way around. So we want to check if this value does not equal this value, then we return false. Yeah, that's what I meant. So again, we'll run that, and hopefully this time it will pass. Yeah, so that works, and I'm going to go ahead and submit that answer to see how it performs against other submissions. Okay, so faster than 57%, so that's reasonable. So yeah, that's the solution. So in the description, something that's quite interesting is thinking about, could you solve it without converting the integer to a string? So I've been thinking about that, and yeah, I think it's going to be doable. It's requires a little bit more kind of mathematical thinking and an understanding of some mathematical principles, but I think that's going to be doable. And I think what I'll do is I'll end this stream on the string version, and I'll do another one later to cover that scenario. So thank you very much. I'm going to call it a day.